Good evening and Happy New Year to everybody. Welcome to Crawley Borough Council's Overview and Scrutiny Commission meeting of the 13th of January. I'm Councillor Marion Ayling, Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Commission. There are no scheduled fire drills tonight, so in event of a fire alarm sounding, please leave the building by the main spiral staircase and through the main reception doors. Once outside, please turn left and make your way to the fire assembly point located beyond the multi-storey car park in Exchange Road. If you are unable to use the stairs, please wait in the council chamber and you will be guided by a member of staff to the evacuation lift. This meeting is being live streamed via the council's YouTube channel. Please note that there are no comment functions available as part of this webcasting. The council is the data controller and will retain the data collected during this webcast. This will be done in accordance with the council's published data retention policy. All members of the public seated in the public gallery should be aware that by entering the chamber, they are consenting to their image being captured by the automated camera system. Recordings will be used for webcasting and/or training purposes. Councillors are reminded to take note of what is displayed on the screens in the room, as this shows what is being recorded and webcast. Cameras are currently set to capture you in a seated position, so please remain seated when speaking. You can request to speak in as usual in the committees by raising your hand. To speak by pressing the button with the face on it and the microphone will go green and you will be live. We will now commence with the apologies of absence. Have we received any apologies of absence?
Thank you, Chair. We received apologies from Councillor Hellier.
Thank you. Does any member have any disclosure of interest or whipping declarations? Councillor Lanza.
Thank you, Chair. On item 8, a personal interest as West Sussex County Council Cabinet representative on the Crawley Growth Programme, and item 9 as West Sussex County Council Cabinet member for Public Health and Wellbeing, also personal interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else? No? Minutes. Now we come to the minutes of the last meeting held on the 25th of November. As a reminder, these contained Part B items. Does the Commission agree that the minutes are an accurate record of the meeting? Councillor Russell.
Yeah, I've got one small amendment and at the discretion of the meeting, but with regard to the Waste and Recycling Scrutiny Panel, the recommendations put forward were unanimous, and I thought it would be nice to have that recorded, that it was a cross-floor agreement. The recommendations were unanimous.
Okay, we can...
That's great, thank you.
Add that to the minutes, is that okay? Yep. Thank you. Anything else on the minutes? Do we agree with that alteration? Yep, agreed? Agreed, thank you. We have no public in attendance, so we will move on to the next item. We commence with the Safer Crawley Partnership Annual Update and Forthcoming Priorities. We have various special guests attending tonight, and I would like to welcome Acting Chief Inspector Steve Turner from Sussex Police, Inspector Adam McKay from Sussex Police. Did I say that correct? Alex O'Keefe, Community Safety Manager from West Sussex. Thank you. And Community Service Manager Georgina Boett. Yep. And Public Protection Enforcement Manager Dan Carberry. And Councillor Yasmin Khan is in attendance as Chair of the Safer Crawley Partnership. Please can you provide your presentation to the Commission? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for committee too for inviting us to give our annual review into the Safer Crawley Partnership. My name is Dan Carberry. I'm the Public Protection and Enforcement Manager for Crawley Borough Council, and Councillor Khan's lead for the Safer Crawley Partnership. For those that are joining the committee that might not have heard about the Safer Crawley Partnership before now, the Safer Crawley Partnership is a statutory function that every local authority holds, and the purpose of that is to reduce reoffending, tackle crime and disorder, antisocial behaviour, alcohol and substance misuse, and any other behaviour which has a negative impact on the people living, working or visiting Crawley. We have a range of statutory partners, so Crawley Borough Council is one, West Sussex County Council are another, Sussex Police, West Sussex Fire and Rescue, the National Probation Service and Sussex Health and Care. And then we also have a range of non-statutory partners that are involved in the Community Safety Partnership that join us at the Safer Crawley Partnership executive meetings from a range of sources. So we have the Police and Crime Commissioner's Office, Crawley Youth Centre, Crawley Community Youth Service, Crawley and Gatwick Business Watch, CGL, the local substance misuse service, Audio Active, a range of Crawley schools, the Town Centre Business Improvement District, and Crawley Town Communities Foundation. So the Strategic Intelligence Assessment is a data-driven document that we receive each year that looks at the crime and disorder trends, types of crime and the drivers for crime that occur in Crawley. And so for 24-25, our priorities were violence against women and girls, serious organised crime, youth-related antisocial behaviour, protecting vulnerable individuals, drug-related harm, and then the Clear Hold Build initiative, and I'll talk more about that shortly. So it's been a very busy year for the Safer Crawley Partnership, and for the first time we held a range of events and community engagement events to really increase the profile of the partnership locally. One of the favourite events that we have of the Safer Crawley Partnership is the Junior Citizen event, and it is an absolute feat of engineering to deliver it. We had this year over 1,600 children from every single primary school across the borough over a 2-week programme where we deliver micro workshops to young people to give them the skills that they need as they head towards their secondary school journey. At the event in 2022, the feedback from the schools that participated was that they wanted a higher degree of focus from in community and personal safety. So we did that last year, and we continued that this year. Following feedback from over in Scrutiny Committee last year from Councillor Khan, we ran a specific workshop on how to keep children safe while they're online gaming, and that was delivered by West Sussex County Council, and that was a really positively received workshop from the children and schools that participated. We also introduced a few new sessions this year, which were how to keep your personal information safe online, a revised session on body image to prepare young people for some of the pressures that come with engaging with social media, the dangers of vaping, and the new one delivered by our new community protection team, which was how to behave pro-socially in public spaces. And this year, so last year we did a trial inviting children from Manor Green Primary School onto the sessions, and this year we worked really closely with the school to ensure that the session could be engaged with in a really meaningful way with the children that are attending that have a range of additional needs. So moving on to a slightly older age group, the Safe for Schools event is aimed at children in years 8, so aged between 12 and 13. And again, we achieved attendance from children from every single secondary school in the borough, including Manor Green College. So again, ensuring that those young people with additional needs are also engaged with the kind of critical community safety messaging. And we also had the Alternative Provision College join us this year. You know, vulnerable children that have been excluded from schools that are at higher risk of exploitation, and ensuring that they engage with that as well. Again, a massive event with 1,500 children attending that. And the children were given a presentation by a former gang member that now works with an organisation called the St Giles Trust, who talks to children about their lived experience of being gang affected and how children can recognise the early signs of grooming and exploitation in themselves and in their peers, and how to communicate those concerns to responsible adults around them. The commitment that we have from the Crawley Schools Pastoral Network, which is an incredibly active group of deputy heads across the borough, is that they continue those conversations at school during PHSE lessons and assemblies. We also did the Let's Talk event this year, which brought together stakeholders and members of the public to talk through some key challenges that we have in Crawley. And we talked about things like violence against women and girls, knife crime and exploitation, hate crime, online safety and antisocial behaviour. It was attended by 50 residents, business owners and stakeholders, community leaders. And we also had the youth mayor who attended and spoke about the youth council's growing concern about vaping, and they gave us a tough time with their evaluation that actually as professionals we are not acting in the way that young people want us to act. We also had another guest speaker that joined us on that, a young man who was really succeeding in his Olympic career, and was exploited by one of his friends, and was able to kind of really talk us through his experience and what us as professionals and stakeholders and community leaders need to look out for. And then we also ended the session with performances from Audio Active, a local youth provider, which included young people who have been supported by Audio Active directly through funding provided by the Safer Crawley Partnership. So along with the events, we funded a number of projects during 24-25, which included the Junior Citizen event. We used funding to deliver the White Ribbon campaign, which is a campaign to end men's violence against women and girls. And that included most of the members around the table joining to sign the White Ribbon Pledge in the Town Hall, and members of staff and our partners. And as we move into the next year, aiming towards gaining White Ribbon accreditation. We delivered the Have Fun Stay Safe campaign, which engages with our nighttime economy, and funded anti-spiking devices for pubs, clubs, and the private hire operators in the town. The neighbourhood youth police officers made a bid for drug boxes which contain simulated illegal substances, and they're able to use those as props to engage with young people so that they understand what those substances might look like. We supported the Girls' Wellbeing School project, and that is run for girls between the age of 12 and 16 that are facing disadvantages that make them more at risk for low self-esteem and poor well-being. And those sessions were delivered to girls from St Wilfrid's School, Ifield Community College, Holy Trinity and Thomas Bennett during the school day. And there were a total of 4 workshops delivered as part of that project. We funded Audioactive to do their outreach and custom vibes. So that included sessions that are held in Crawley Museum, where young people learn how to write music. They get into musical production and recording, we also funded the Vocalise sessions, which is a specific session around mental health and safe space drop-in for young women. And then Custom Vibes, which is a quarterly showcase performance, bringing together different project strands from Audioactive, and they do performances in public spaces. We funded the Partnership Outreach Project, which brings together all of the youth providers that do young people's intervention. And rather than funding them individually, what we've been able to deliver is a toolkit of options. So when a at-risk young person is identified, it's up to the young person what diversionary activity they want to take part in. So we have sessions through Audioactive, through Crawley Youth Centre, and a range of different things, so things like music and boxing, to make sure that the young people feel like they have a choice in that diversion. And then we also funded boxing sessions with the Russell Martin Foundation, which is also the Mayor's chosen charity of the year, and that focused on boys-only boxing sessions, girls-only boxing sessions, and then the extra time placements, which provide additional support for those young people that have been excluded from mainstream education. One big shift that we delivered this year is we kind of had a subgroup of the Safer Crawley Partnership, which looked at two parts of the borough where significant crime and disorder issues were identified, and that was at Southgate Playing Fields and at Langley Green Shopping Parade. And the issues involved a number of exploited children at those at risk of exploitation, drugs misuse and drug dealing, antisocial behaviour and peer-on-peer violence. The partnership was brought together with operational leads from all of the statutory partners of the Safer Crawley Partnership, and included targeted patrols of the location with Crawley Borough Council and Sussex Police, directed outreach funded by the Safer Crawley Partnership, and the Safer Crawley Partnership also funded environmental design interventions and close work with children's social care to safeguard those groups. And I think the most positive thing that I can give you in terms of an update around this is that the Langley Green group was disbanded at the end of December, following the successful safeguarding of 5 children who were being exploited actively in Langley Green, but through that coordinated partnership activity are no longer being exploited, and the community are no longer being harmed by the activity that was taking place at Langley Green Shopping Parade. The Southgate Playing Field case is still ongoing, but what we have seen is a marked reduction in reports of peer-on-peer violence, drugs misuse and antisocial behaviour. So as I said, each year we get the Strategic Intelligence Assessment, which tells us what the highest levels of crime and disorder are in the borough, and again what the drivers for those types of crime are. And so the priorities that we as a partnership agreed to set for the following year is violence against women and girls, but with a particular focus on spiking and street-based harassment. The prevention of exploitation of young people, with a focus on contextual safeguarding and knife-related harm prevention. Protecting vulnerable individuals, which encompasses things like hate crime, cuckooing and addiction-related offending. Acquisitive crime, with a significant focus on tackling the significant increase in shoplifting that we saw in the last year. And then a specific priority around community engagement, Safer Crawley Partnership events and awareness campaigns. I will hand over at this point to Chief Inspector Steve Turner, who will talk about Operation Skylark.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. this will come on with the data slide in a second as well, but Operation Skylark was the response to the really sad murder in Southport that led to increased tensions nationally and also protests that were indicated on social media, along with dates, locations, which included Crawley, and a number of disinformation, misinformation on the social media. So it's fair to say, having worked in Crawley for nearly 5 years now, that's probably the highest level of tension I've ever seen within Crawley. And indeed, that's supported by the community and the residents, which also saw an increase in reporting of hate incidents and general concern. Obviously, we had the dates at the end of July. It was when the offence took place, and then obviously the protests were further down and played out around the country. But in Crawley, there was about 5,000 people that turned out. I think 2 or 3 small numbers from the far right, and it was a heavily led partnership operation where police obviously had the operational side, but we also had the really important engagement with the community and community groups. We held a meeting here with faith leads to offer that reassurance, because the information intelligence picture wasn't, there wasn't much there in terms of date, time. We didn't know about numbers, and ultimately, as it says up there, they've used the attack to promote disinformation, promote anti-migrant and anti-Muslim and anti-establishment narratives. So you had the operation in terms of the police resourcing on the day, working in partnership, that went well, and then engagement both before the event for reassurance and, to gather further information from the community groups and from the public, and then respectively afterwards a kind of sweep up meeting to again ensure we covered everything, got the feedback from the community groups and from the public, and some learning came out of that around giving community groups and faith group leaders via the county council some training around misinformation and disinformation and what that looks like. And pleased to say, obviously the incident's now passed. We did an Unity event on the back of that in partnership here at the Town Hall, and we've capitalised on that momentum around the positive engagement that came from the local community groups to form, stronger bonds and working relationships with those key stakeholders. We've got further details up there around the detail. So the far right groups, we identified a hotel on the Friday the 9th of August and further the Holiday Inn. So social media platforms were being used. I think that's the bit about the disinformation there around the illegal immigration, the hotel and mother and baby unit. The local mothers want to end the constant harassment. We did the scoping. We don't have a mother and baby unit. So again, that information had been put out there to cause concern. The community tension, again, this original message, and I think there were 2 or 3 screenshots, were circulated far and wide, and led to obviously numerous calls, which when we come on to our crime data, led to a spike of an increase in reporting, as you can imagine. So the effects on the community, as we said, is widespread. It wasn't just within Crawley. This is a national tensions, and as I say, heightened than we've ever seen more in Crawley. It was monitored by our intelligence department, and working in partnership, we had tactical coordination groups regularly throughout to gather and communicate what the plans were amongst the partnership and how we'd reassure the public and the key individuals involved, as well as scoped the route or potential routes that people would be taking, spoke with partner agencies such as British Transport Police as to how people would be arriving, and then obviously the police operation on the day. There was also community tension assessment that monitored and tracked this in partnership throughout the day. And following the reorganisation, obviously this is the structural changes here. So this happened around April this year. So it's a move which is a positive move for Crawley, but effectively now sees a superintendent lead for each of the districts. So Crawley and Mid Sussex has their own superintendent for each area, which is great. And that ensures that the response neighbour policing have sufficient resources to tackle crime and antisocial behaviour. It's becoming more crucial to work in a more intelligence-led manner, as it says up there, working with partners and communities, and I think that was really demonstrated through the work with the communities and partnership around Op Skylark. So there's some crime data up there. I'm going to talk probably around the two in red. I'll talk about hate crimes. So actually, if you do to the academic year, the academic year from December, you'll see that actually the increase is just 1.2%, and we're able to pinpoint that to the Op Skylark, the increased tensions in the summer period and the increased reporting. We also had, in addition to that, we run engagement events to encourage reporting. So there was a Hate Crime Awareness Week in October 2024, which again would have contributed to that, but a more positive picture in terms of the up-to-date increase being lower than that one. And the antisocial behaviour increases ultimately come to 229 additional reports. The increase in reporting is around solvent misuse, so namely alcohol and drugs in a public place. We record antisocial behaviour around three elements: nuisance, antisocial behaviour, personal and environmental. And that can range from anything from littering through to noise complaints through to neighbour disputes. And we record antisocial behaviour separate from crimes, as obviously the threshold hasn't been met for a crime on that one. And on a positive note around mentioning alcohol and drugs, the drug offences in public place is down by 15%. Further, we've had 2 hotspots that were identified within the town centre, and that's been ongoing antisocial behaviour that we've worked in partnership to understand, build up the intelligence gaps and work in partnership with housing providers to bring that antisocial behaviour to a stop. And that would be the explanation for those increases. And again, positive data there around violence against women and girls, serious violence and drug offences. Sorry, and the next one, so current challenges and emerging issues. Some of these are ongoing as we continue to do it. So county drug lines, it's not just an issue for Crawley, it's a national problem. However, we do have success in Crawley. We've done a number of dedicated operations where county lines that are quickly identified and assessed are then actionable. Enforcement is taken to identify and then stop those in the form of warrants. We've publicised some really good results around county lines, that the ones known that have come into Crawley on our local pages, on our Facebook pages and our local news around success stories. Knife crime increases, again, that's national, it's not just a Crawley. We have had that and still have that in Crawley. There's no particular set pattern, but we have identified a couple of young people, one from Crawley and one not from Crawley, who have been given serious violence reduction orders alongside custodial sentences as a means of controlling them and preventing them from committing further offences. They've also got criminal behaviour orders. So again, that's working in partnership with Alex O'Keefe to the side of me and Adam, and also Yasmin and Dan's team within the council. Youth-related crime disorders there as well, and child criminal exploitation. And again, there's a number of meetings there with partner agencies where if there are any concerns raised by partners, we meet, we scan the information, we put the safeguarding in place and look at the disruption at the same time. So it's very coordinated and tight grip very early on to look to resolve and minimise the risk to the children involved. Clearhold Build started, I believe, October last year. It's a national initiative with about 15 sites across the country. It's looking at the enablers, as Dan said, around serious and organised crime. Crawley is the first one to be the pilot force within Sussex, and the tactics are military tactics that have been adopted for Police UK, and look at working with the community as opposed to imposing conditions on them to reduce and mitigate offences such as serious crime, which include county lines, drug offences, antisocial behaviour and knife-enabled crimes. So, as we said, a significant reduction in county lines. That came with Home Office funding along with match funding. We've worked on numerous lines over 2 or 3 periods where, when identified large numbers have come in, we've worked in partnership with Surrey Police, the Metropolitan Police, and ourselves and partners to identify quickly and take action to close those lines, take enforcement action, but at the same time safeguard those involved. And ongoing to that, anyone that's susceptible to cuckooing or is complicit in cuckooing around county lines, we also do regular visits on a kind of fortnightly, monthly basis before there's a problem, to do that engagement work to safeguard the individuals, but also be on top of the ball if there are any concerns around drug lines. There's an update which is probably forever changing, but I think the key details here is there's a ward PSO for each area. We've currently got 2 vacancies out of 22 PSOs for Crawley, so that picture's good. We've bolstered up in our areas around where the data supports the town centre, for example, of Manor Royal and West Green. That's a very large area, and obviously some of our heat maps around crime data shows us that that's where we need additional resources. But that detail again is available for everyone. And any questions for the partnership?
Thank you very much. I'm the councillor for Tilgate, and I have to take special interest in what you've said, because I've had some conversation with some of the shop owners in the Tigger Parade, and they mention about the challenges they've got with police response to some of their calls. And I'm impressed by your presentation today, which is, I can see that you are doing so much in Crawley, and I'm actually I'm actually impressed by your presentation. But my question is, how do you improve on the response rate to calls by residents that they've witnessed crime or something is going on? I think the rate of response, or the fact that there won't be any police presence after they've made a call, they will just tell them to just fill out a form, or the police will come back later. I mean, people are expecting that kind of immediate reaction from the police if they made a 911 call or they try to call the police. So is it that there is a kind of understaffing in that area, or the funding, or what could be the challenges that you're having?
Yeah, the response times are actually very, very good. So I worked over the weekend, for example. There's something like a 99% attendance within the categorisation. So we've recently, from a force level, gone through a swift change, which has obviously seen recategorisation of incidents, but also the time frames. We have like computers that tell us what times, how long we're taking. So I think response times isn't an issue. They are incredibly good on the fast time incidents. Of course, there are different ways of reporting. So we've got the online, we've got the 101, and we have the 999 calls. Again, they're all monitored and are assessed by the same control room as to what information is being provided, and therefore then assessed. So depending on the caller's information and how it's assessed will depend on what category and then what time the response comes. So I think there's lots of factors there, but I can assure you the response times are in the late 90% in terms of if you call for a police urgent assistance, they're going to be there very swiftly.
Thank you. Okay, so. Okay, pardon? You weren't being recorded. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna actually feedback to some of the people that I spoke with, and to actually get an update on the, because probably when this were told to me, maybe it must have happened long before there is a change in, in your procedure, your reaction to some of this. So, yeah.
I think the other challenge is obviously a bit like the NHS and the police. Obviously, those are the reporting lines, and you can obviously report online. It goes into the same control room. It's assessed by the same risk assessment and the team. I think some of our challenges we often find, certainly locally in Crawley, and I think other areas are no different, is a lot of people will put incidents or information on social media and often aren't reported to the police. Okay. So we do have slower time incidents that we are often in partnership becoming aware of late and then playing catch up. So we do have those challenges, but as I said, it comes down to what information the call the person putting the call in or the report online, what information they give will be assessed by a triage sergeant, and they'll make a decision as to what grade and the response time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Councillor Khan. I'm from Maidenbower. Just out of curiosity, do the police have a CCTV monitoring system in Crawley where you can actually proactively look at hotspots of crime and respond to them without the need for the public to correspond with you?
We have obviously CCTV cameras that are around. The ones that are monitored by the council. Probably give Dan the answer to that question. But we, as a partnership, have mobile cameras as well. So we've used and deployed them in key areas where we get increase in calls and data of crimes, in addition to directed patrol activities, which is where in a partnership, but predominantly police officers and PCSOs, will go and flood an area around what the crime's showing, dates, times, or in response to serious offences. We will do those additional patrols, but we do, as a partnership, have 2 mobile deployable cameras, which again we regularly review in partnership and can move. I don't know if you wanted to add any more.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we've got 54 new cameras, so they're high definition, and they are monitored by the police and some of the Crawley Borough Council staff. So they are monitored all the time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I'm glad to see that my suggestion on the online gaming thing was taken. So that will be my lasting legacy on this council, I think. So thanks. I just wanted a bit more feedback on that. Is there are we aware of the impact on that session and what the feedback was from the children and schools on that session? So thank you.
We get feedback from all of the schools, but I think what was probably one of the most unnerving, but then reassuring at the same time, kind of bits of feedback was directly from the children engaging in the session, who, when they're setting up their usernames, they're using their first name and the year of birth, and not realising that actually they are, by using those usernames, they are giving out significant amounts of personal information. And so in the feedback, it was that children and teachers had fed back that actually they learned a really significant amount of what appears to be minor information that actually was a massive revelation to children about actually how much at risk they'd put themselves. As with Safer Schools, though, the Junior Citizen Programme is, so we do it right at the beginning of the academic year for Year 6, and all of the sessions are revisited by the teachers at PHSE lessons. So those conversations will continue continue for a year. But it was one of the most well received new sessions that we've put on.
So thank you for that. And is there any plans for more of these sessions in the future for like obviously future kids coming up and getting into gaming.
Councillor, you'll be pleased to know that will be a substantive session going forward through the feedback that we receive from the schools. So each year we evaluate the sessions, whether they're still relevant and current, and there was a really strong sense that was a really critical session for the children attending.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for a really good presentation. There's so much there. It's hard to know where to begin, really. I think in terms of PCSO coverage, me and Councillor Russell have done a lot of work with our local PCSO, and he's got a good idea of the issues, and as a result, we've got a good idea of the issues, particularly in terms of antisocial behaviour in certain areas. So very, very proactive, and it's really good to hear that you're nearly up to compliment, because that's quite an achievement to get within 2 of compliment, because I don't think it was like that a few months ago. So, you know, I also think that PCSOs and the local police are only as good as sometimes the low intel they get from people. So, you know, you get a lot of stuff on social media saying, oh, it's even on smaller things like speed cameras, oh, there's so-and-so, and there's a lot of anti-stuff. And I think if you want good policing, you need a good community as well. And I think hopefully you'll be getting lots of intel as well as data as well. So that's really good. And I think all the prevent stuff is really good with the school children. I'm a school governor, and online gaming is an issue at the school I hear about, and I'm sure there's other schools through Crawley. So well done, Councillor Carr, for that. Well done, good work. There's lots I could talk about. Obviously, you mentioned ASB's antisocial behaviour. Do you break down the figures into different parts of the town, and perhaps we could see that separately at some point?
Yeah, I'm sure we can do that. Like you say, yeah. I think there's a couple of points about what you just mentioned as well. So the reason why the numbers of the PCSOs fluctuate is around recruitment for PCSOs alongside recruitment for the PC, and we have a really high percentage of success in Crawley where we retain our PCSOs at a cost that we lose them because they become police officers. But we do strongly bid to keep them in the areas that they've grown in. We also have each patrol plan for award PCSOs, so they are finite detail of who's causing harm, who's the key stakeholders, community events. You know, that's the level of detail they go into, and then obviously working with partners. As I said with the antisocial behaviour, we break it down into personal, environmental and nuisance, and part of the increase there is solvent misuse in the public place. It's actually quite difficult. It's not a crime, and the drug side of it, in terms of public use of drug, the increase, the positive reduction of 15% is really good. Sometimes it takes a while to build that picture of antisocial behaviour or get the evidence, but in particular for this, we have 2 properties around the corner in the town centre that have taken a long period of time working in partnership with the housing provider to understand a block of flats, understand what the problem was, because it was a multifaceted problem, and get to a conclusion. So we know, one, we were doing that problem solving work in partnership with the relevant people to get them to the table and resolve it. We have recorded kind of problem solving cases around that. But in addition, the data shows heat maps of where the antisocial behaviour increases are, and it's in those locations. So we reassure ourselves afterwards that we've done the work, continue to do the work. Those problems have reduced the antisocial behaviour, and obviously looking at the heat map and the data, we're all about statistics and data to give that intelligence-led policing, as well as obviously working in partnership, so we're confident we're in the right places and not getting caught out when we do see data like that and go, actually, is there anything more we can be doing? We're always assessing patterns and trends and locations.
Just one more general point. That's really interesting about it, especially with work with housing partners, because we've done a lot of work with housing associations, Crawley Homes have as well. So I presume it's building on that, and you're working with those and also Crawley Homes. I just want to focus on, the only thing I really want to focus on is shoplifting, because a few months ago Well, I heard a Radio 4 programme about it and how bad this situation is, particularly for the little local supermarkets, not so much the big ones. And I took part in a campaign as well, which was sponsored by the Shop Workers Union Usdaw. And A, is it a problem in Crawley? B, is there a kind of particular trend? Because it sounds like it's done on quite an industrial scale, it's quite organised. And C, there's a lot of talk about the tolerance levels on shoplifting offences. There's so much to do. Plus D, on C, so there's a lot of talk about not having a zero tolerance that it's a particular. Have we changed the policy on shoplifting? And D, obviously, one of the big things about shoplifting is the threat to shop staff as well. Because obviously, if it becomes industrial and pretty endemic, I think shop staff feel pretty threatened. And is it an issue within Crawley, or is there reflection of what the national statistics show?
Yeah, so I'll answer all of that. Zero tolerance from a police perspective. And we, as I mentioned with the ward PCSOs, part of their regular patrols is around the parade of shops and whether that's a town centre or different parades. We have OP acceptance, which is the police response internally to business crime. We have again, the partnership meet fortnightly, and that includes the representation from Crawley, the Gatwick and Crawley Business Pub Watch Manager. So they come to the meeting, they tell us alongside our own data, alongside our own identification, who is causing harm. We target those individuals, we look at partnership disruption opportunities, as well as safeguarding and referrals alongside that. So we have a real clear when it's reported. It's not always reported, so that then causes us difficulties, and then we have challenges sometimes. So there's delays built in where we're chasing particular businesses for their CCTV or someone who can operate CCTV. But we have a really good understanding of who causes harm. It's not just a Crawley issue, it's national. I would say there's an increase. That's why we've identified it as a partnership as one of the priorities. But to give you that reassurance, zero tolerance from us. We can't always influence the criminal justice system in terms of the courts, but I can tell you that we put the best cases of evidence together. We're in, I think the team at Crawley last time looked up to about, this is without the individuals that we have managed to put in prison. We have probably up to 12 to 15 individuals that have got criminal behaviour orders in addition to the criminal investigations that are ongoing. So again, it's around mitigating and controlling behaviours and trying to stop those. We also attend the pub watch meetings, which are monthly, and talk to the nighttime economy. Again, I know that's different, but that's the level of engagement we do. And the last thing I wanted to mention was Operation Safety, again, is a Sussex Police response to increased knife crime. So when we look at whether it's VORG data or we look at knife crime, we can really pinpoint the hotspot locations, and op safety patrols take place, and we can do the same with antisocial behaviour. So the hotspot patrols around serious violence and knife-enabled crime, albeit it's kind of a rolling year on year, so sometimes the data isn't necessarily current, but it tells us and gives us a good idea of where to be. So we do increased patrols at the partnerships daily in those hotspots, and the antisocial behaviour hotspots, two of them include two of the big chain shops in the town centre. So again, in addition to the engagement work, the preventative, the enforcement and the safeguarding, there is additional patrols, additional funding, resources pulled in from other locations to give extra preventative to that areas. So hopefully I've answered all your questions.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. And yeah, thank you for your report. I mean, it looks like you guys have done a lot of great work in the past year and a bit. And I was especially pleased to see about you being able to break up that issue at Langley Parade and stopping the exploitation of those 5 children. I was looking at the Crawley Borough Council website, where I think the public might go to look in the case they had a safeguarding concern. And under raising concerns, it says, if you think a child, young person, or vulnerable adult is at immediate risk, you should treat this as an emergency and call 999 to report your concerns to the police. which is all well and good, but I worry that a lot of the time with child exploitation, it's not an immediate risk per se, it's sometimes like a medium or long-term risk. And I know you guys said you had a working group set up for the Langley Parade issue, and I was just wondering if you had a dedicated reporting structure for people who have those medium and long-term worries about child exploitation?
I'm certainly happy to visit with the council what the wording is on that. I think in terms of the police reporting, as I said earlier, it's the 999 101 or online reporting is the preferred and only way in terms of reporting exploitation from a police perspective, but from a county council perspective, Alex?
Yeah, in the case of those kind of medium-term concerns where perhaps a resident might want to talk those through or seek some advice or guidance around that. As it's a child safeguarding concern, it would be to West Sussex County Council, and the integrated front door, so to children's social care would be where the appropriate place to put that. So it could be there's an adjustment to the website to make sure that that reporting functions there as well.
Cool. Fab. Thanks.
Sorry, I was just going to say, but being really clear, if it is obviously a pressing issue, it is a 999 call, okay, in terms of that. But if it's, like you say, slow time, then it's based on that detail and assessment, really.
Yes, I think I mentioned this last time this was up as well. Learning to drive is something that's really close to me right now, and I did mention last time about maybe sessions for like 16, 17-year-olds on like driving safety and like reckless driving. So just wondering if there's any more development on that.
So in terms of the Safer Crawley Partnership, we're quite constrained by what our focus can be on. The strategic intelligence assessment is it's a data-driven document which tells us what the highest harm crimes are in the borough, and our statutory duty under the Crime and Disorder Act is to tackle those issues. So I think potentially, Councillor Khan, that's maybe a conversation with you and Councillor Khan as a Cabinet Member for Public Protection to have about a separate work stream. It's just with the way that the Safer Crawley Partnership has to function, unless that crime type is kind of sticking out like a sore thumb, our ability to focus on that as a partnership is quite limited.
Just to add on there, maybe not in this forum, but we do have a casualty reduction team that again is a partnership, and they work in that kind of space. So again, I'll time with Councillor Khan and that team as to what that looks like for provisions for Crawley.
Yeah, it's just some quick observations. Going back to last summer and Operation Skylark, it was an absolutely dreadful time. I do remember the sense of anticipation and horror of what was going on. And at the time, we were kept informed as councillors of the discussions that were going on in the background, and that was just fantastic to know that those discussions were happening, that they were going, and that you were talking to community leaders, and obviously you've confirmed that again today. And I think, really, I just wanted the opportunity to say thank you, because it must be absolutely appalling that you become targeted by groups of people simply for trying to uphold the principle of the rule of law. So, on behalf of myself, and I hope the other councillors as well, thank you for being there, and thank you for upholding that basic principle. Thank you.
That's really appreciated. Thank you.
I really appreciate that, Councillor Russell, and I think I'm sure Chief Inspector Turner will echo that. I think for us as professionals, I think the best thing about that was how the Crawley residents responded to that. We are very lucky and quite different to other parts of West Sussex, where our communities respond to the presence of the far right in quite a predictable way, and there's a real sense of intolerance to that kind of behaviour. So that, I think, for us professionals, that job was quite easy because we had our residents responding in the way that they did.
Councillor Russell, just would like to say, that the community leaders are really, really grateful to the police, and they dropped loads of thank you cards and biscuits and chocolates to the police station. So everybody was really grateful. We were really grateful to the police, the job that was carried out, because it was really tense. That time was really scary because my phone was inundated. But honestly, as soon as we saw the post, since then it didn't stop. So all weekend we were making phone calls, we were talking to each other, we were talking to the police, we were trying to organise and with the community leaders. So I think people were really scared, and the way the police handled and how the officers and everybody handled the situation, I think was really great. So we were really grateful to the police, and the community showed that they did go to the police station and they dropped off little gifts as thank you.
And I was just going to finish on that last bit by saying, obviously, we turned that negative into positive further with the iron was hot to strike and increase the engagement around different groups, and that's continued. We took that straight afterwards. We had the feedback. How can we learn from it as a partnership, as a group, working with community leaders? Hence the training that came out, conversations around communication, and then the engagement's continuing and got stronger. So there's a positive in there.
Sorry, thank you. I move that Commission is asked to note the update and requests that the views expressed during the presentation and the actions are acknowledged and documented by the officers. Please could we have a seconder for this? Any councillor? Who'd like to second it? Thank you, Councillor Khan. I would like to thank you for all attending tonight and for your interesting presentation. The presentation will be included in the minutes as an appendix. I am pleased to welcome Councillor Yasmin Khan to update the Commission on the public protection portfolio and the roles and her roles and responsibilities. I'll hand over to Councillor Khan prior to the Commissioner wanting to ask questions afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for inviting me. Under my portfolio public protection, my service areas of responsibilities are licensing, community wardens, civil enforcement officers, off-street parking and parking orders, private sector housing regulation, community safety and antisocial behaviour, including improvement schemes and liaison with emergency services, nuisance and antisocial behaviour, community cohesion and prevent duties. And I will go over some of the work that's been carried out by me and my officers last year, if that's okay. Okay. Licensing. So we had animal licensing. In November 2024, I sponsored the Council's first formal animal licence policy, which is currently out for public consultation. Whilst it's not a statutory requirement, I was keen to ensure that the Council had a clear policy on how we regulate areas including selling animals as pets, providing or arranging for the provision of boarding for cats or dogs, hiring out horses, breeding dogs, keeping or training animals for exhibition. And then second, zoo licence. In December 2024, Tilgate Nature Centre had his licence renewed, which occurs every 6 years. I'm pleased to report that my licensing officers, alongside independent inspectors appointed by the Animal Plant Health Agency, renewed the zoo licence and highlighted great success in the zoo's journey since the last inspection in 2021. Have Fun, Stay Safe campaign. I've been very pleased in continuing work to keep our nighttime economy safe for businesses, residents and visitors to the town. My licensing officers have conducted a range of interventions, including education, inspection and regulation of business to ensure that they remain compliant with legislation, and conducted late night visits to ensure we have a clear understanding of how safe our nighttime economy is for those using it. On particular thing, we are very proud of Have Fun, Stay Safe campaign, in which we provided educational materials, anti-spiking devices to pubs and clubs across the town. We also work closely with the private hire operators to ensure that drivers and staff are trained in safeguarding and provide safe transit home for those using the nighttime economy. Pavement licensing. This year, the payment licensing regime became permanent and responsibility given to Crawley Borough Council to administer and enforce. The regime was first introduced in the pandemic to enable businesses to extend their footprint into outside space, and was crucial in helping businesses such as pubs and cafes to survive as restrictions began to ease. It now allows us to provide outside space on a public highway and manage this to ensure that it doesn't result in obstructions. Community wardens. At the beginning of 2024, I launched the new community protection team following a review carried out by the officers into the former community warden team. I recognise that Crawley residents need a frontline enforcement provision which supports the police to combat antisocial behaviour in our parks and open spaces, and we needed to refine our focus into fly tipping and wider environmental crime issues. Later this year, I'll be therefore before the OSC committee talk about the success and challenges we have had in delivering this new service for Crawley. I want to use this opportunity to talk about some key successes we have had. Fly tipping remains a key area of concern for the council, and I'm pleased to report that during the last 12 months, all shopping parades in Crawley have been inspected to ensure that businesses are correctly disposing of their waste, and this waste is reaching its proper destination. The team have advised me that they have achieved 100% compliance rate, and of the warning notices issued, all businesses have complied and ensured correct waste arrangements are in place. We have also focused on residential fly tipping. One particular case at Southgate Parade involved households disposing of the waste incorrectly, resulting in overflowing bins and the Salvation Army bin being used to dispose of waste, and building up with in turn, so it resulted in levels of fly tipping of other items. So we spoke to Salvation Army and got rid of the bins basically. So the Salvation Army bin was removed, signage was installed, educational letters were issued to all households about correct disposal of waste and the consequences of fly tipping. And 3 fixed penalty notices were issued. Since this was done, there's no further reports of fly tipping in this location, which is really good news. Civil enforcement officers and off-street parking and parking orders. Parking services have suffered sustained challenges with recruitment of suitable staff for some time prior to 2024, and this made our job tough maintaining the safety of road users and pedestrians. This year, we worked closely with our employer Crawley colleagues to seek new ways to attract people into our vacant positions, and this yielded success with all vacant positions. We supported people who have, for one reason or another, been unable to secure roles and worked with them before the application process and offered help to get them ready for interview, and through this approach secured people who have thrived within the parking enforcement team, with many exceeding the national average performance metrics for parking. This has enabled us to effectively manage resident parking and permit schemes to ensure our residents have safe and appropriate parking, and helped us to cover more areas where poor parking or road safety issues are a risk to public safety, particularly schools and places of worship. Following the success of this revision to the tariff charges at Kingsgate Car Park in partnership with Councillor Bob Noyce, we asked for officers to review the parking charges in all our town centre car parking sites to make sure that our charges place us as competitors for town centre parking and ensure that our prices were attracting customers to use our sites, which helps to fund wider council services. This model has increased uses of Kingsgate Car Park, and further work has been undertaken to further increase the use of Orchard Street multi-storey car park. Community safety and antisocial behaviour, including improvement schemes and liaison with emergency services. During the last 12 months, a significant area of focus for me was the need to engage better with our communities around community safety concerns, with a particular focus on underrepresented communities. I've spent a lot of my time this year meeting with community leaders, groups and individuals to better understand issues they face, the challenges they experience, and how the council can better serve them and remove any barriers we have in them feeling able to access our services. I have held public meetings where we discuss things such as violence against women and girls, knife crime and exploitation, hate crime and community cohesion and antisocial behaviour. Through this engagement, we have been able to refine our approach to addressing community safety issues and ensuring our residents feel heard and able to engage with us. We are following substantial issues with the provision of CCTV in the borough and unexpected proposal from the Sussex Police to end the CCTV partnership. The borough was left vulnerable to losing the CCTV provision entirely. Our CCTV network was quite old, with some cameras beyond functional repair and none had digital capacity. CBC, along with the wider partners across Sussex, have not been operational responsibility for CCTV since the partnership began in 1997. Were suddenly left with the prospect of losing the network or having to complete substantial upgrades to the network in order to retain it. Through officers, we were able to negotiate a position with the Sussex Police to continue to support the CCTV provision, and through joint funding through the PCC's office and Crawley Borough Council, we were able to complete the upgrades, which meant we had no loss of CCTV provision. Our network of 54 cameras are now all digital, ultra-high definition cameras which can be accessed by Sussex Police and authorised council officers and provide critical evidential value when investigating public space crime and disorder. This year I have also worked with Councillor Noyes to ask for full council to approve a new public space protection order to tackle misuse of our multi-storey car parks following sustained issues related to antisocial behaviour and drugs misuse. The order, which covers Kingsgate, Town Hall and Orchard Street multi-car storey car parks, gives the police and council officers the ability to give lawful instructions to those misusing our car parks to leave immediately. This has been a vital tool in ensuring that our car parks are safe and that those misusing them can be dealt with quickly. Community cohesion. This year has been the most challenging in relation to community cohesion in recent times, both at national level and locally, what the police mentioned. As the most diverse place to live in West Sussex, our town is proud to embrace our differences and to unite against any form of hatred or prejudice. In August, the police already mentioned, but I'll mention it again, like many parts of the country, we faced the threat of extreme far-right protest activity. In my role as Cabinet Member, I worked closely with the officers, the police and our substantial networks of community leaders and community groups to plan the response for the planned protest, and was pleased to see such a strong coordinated effort to ensure that the protests and counter-protests were safe and that the vulnerable locations in the borough were protected through patrols by the police, council officers and security providers. In response to this, I asked officers to create a new tension monitoring meeting to ensure that we have the most up-to-date picture of community tensions, issues affecting our borough, to share more quickly information and intelligence between authorities and partners, and to take swift action to identify, disrupt and safeguard. I also held a public meeting to hear directly from residents what their concerns were and how we could respond to their concerns. Over 50 community representatives attended this meeting, and this work has continued since and has created strong, resilient and trusted network in the community. We celebrated the network at the recent Unity event. The Unity event was attended by community leaders, Crawley ambassadors, council members and other key representatives from across the local community. Attendees signed a Unity pledge in a show of togetherness and support. Community leaders spoke at the event, including representatives from Hindu faith, Christian faith, Muslim faith, and as well as representatives from diverse Crawley, Crawley Against Racism and Youth Mayor. The event, which was compared by Chris Oxdale, also featured fantastic performances from Tamil Learning Group, Crawley Dance Group, Ukraine Soloist, Sophia and DMT School Musical Theatre. And we will continue annual community event. Prevent duties. We continue to play a role in support of West Sussex County Council and counter-terrorism. South East to discharge our prevent duties. Crawley Borough Council plays an active role in Pan Sussex and West Sussex counter-terrorism work streams and represents West Sussex District and Borough Councils in these forums. Thank you. Any questions?
Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Hilton?
Thank you for such a comprehensive report, sir, Councillor Carl. Can I just talk about, first of all, the civil enforcement, the community protection teams? As Dan will tell you, I have a lot of experience with this, and I should make a big plug for Mike Crawley, because if you, I've kind of been converted to Mike Crawley because it's a good way of collating data to see what issues are, and hopefully the particular area I'm talking about, which is a particular problem, hopefully there's lots of things on Mike Crawley now, and I think the approach on the civil enforcement teams in terms of fly tipping, it is a problem. I think there's particular locations which are a particular issue, which I will talk about separately. I think there's a good relationship with the officers from Crawley Homes as well. I think they work quite closely together, and I think long may they continue. And I think the approach of warnings here and up in the case, but again, it goes down to the community getting together and reporting on Mike Crawley. And I think if we all work together, we can solve it. So that's my first comment. My second comment, I'll be relatively brief. I know in terms of parking enforcement, we as a council do things on behalf of the county council because obviously it's their schemes. But there are other restrictions. I'm thinking particularly in the shopping parades, and one or two shopping parades, not so much in the ward I represent, but other wards close by. They get pretty jammed up with parking, etc. And I just wondered, I know we're not kind of paid to do that, but if you're going to have restrictions, I think you should sometimes enforce them. And there's one or two shopping parades particularly where people overstay their welcome and it's quite hard to get spaces and stuff. And I just wondered, in terms of both parking and community enforcement, it sounds probably too operational, but do they target particular areas and hotspots when there's particular issues identified?
Yeah, Councillor, I'll answer that on behalf of Councillor Khan. So on shopping parades, there are shopping parades that have restrictions. So there are a couple that have disabled bays, and they are enforced. So the civil enforcement officers do visit them, and similarly Northgate parade as well gets visited. So how it works on a hyper operational level, Councillor, is we try and cover as many as of the permit zones as we possibly can, because that's what our residents are paying for when they're paying for a permit. But we also have reactive officers who are going to areas of concern. So actually, we hear quite frequently from councillors in Maidenbower and in Southgate around schools where road safety concerns are identified. And you know, our plea to members and members of the public is tell us where we need to be. So you know, we are a small team of 9 civil enforcement officers at Crawley. So the more we know about where to be, the better. So and we are updating My Crawley to provide the facility for residents to do that really simply as well.
No, I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for the response, and thank you again on the community enforcement team, because I think fly tipping is a bit of a bane on our lives, and it's not just fly tipping in woods and stuff. It's people, non-residents using blocks, public bins, communal bins, and it causes a lot of hassle, particularly over the busy Christmas period, where you know bin collections for for obvious reasons, aren't as regular as should be. So I know it's a real concern to local residents. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I'm thinking perhaps the same. I should have asked when the whole of the safe neighbourhood or the other team were here. But I heard you talking about the licensing. Do we encourage the licensed establishments to try and engage with the Ask for Angela scheme? Is that something that we're involved with and we're promoting? Sorry, I see nodding heads already. Okay, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so that is a scheme that that we support, Councillor Russell, and actually Georgina Bouet, the head of community services, and I met this morning to discuss actually how we can further that a little bit more. So I won't give you too many spoilers, but we will be Councillor Conn and I will be bringing a report to the licensing committee to look at how we can further strengthen that approach. We have a number of licensed premises that have it as a voluntary condition on their licence, and our ambition is to engage with all of our licensed premises to have that added as a voluntary condition, and then through the licensing committee looking at whether there is an opportunity to have that as a mandatory condition as a standard for licensed premises within Crawley.
No, it's just not a supplementary, but just that's fantastic, and it's just how ironic that you were talking about it this morning. So, it's when the discussions about women's safety were on earlier, it flew in my head, and that probably was the moment. But that's wonderful. It's on the agenda. Thank you.
Councillor Russell, yeah, there's some shops as well and some banks that are safe haven for women, so they can just go in and they can mention us for support and they'll be given the support. So, yeah.
Right, thank you, Councillor Khan, and everyone from the team for your presentation and your good answering of questions. Thank you. Right, we will now move on to the housing policies. Report from Councillor Irvine, Amanda Kendall, Head of Crawley Homes, Georgia Lee, Policy and Engagement Manager, Robin Comoley. I can't see him. Is it a woman? Yes. Yeah. Planned Maintenance Manager is also in attendance. Councillor Irvine, will you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Chair. You'll be happy to hear that I won't be taking a long time in introducing this. And I'll be introducing them, if you want me to, en bloc rather than individually. As you may remember, a meeting or so ago, we had a whole set of policies before us, which were duly scrutinised. Here's another set, and I dare say there'll be some more in the future. Part of Crawley Homes' ongoing programme to commit policies which we've had in place for a number of years, to actually set them into paper so that the public and tenants know exactly what to expect from Crawley Homes. And in a way, this is in answer to the new regulation scheme around social housing to make sure that we're fit for purpose for that, and in case we get a regulatory inspection in the near future. But also, I think that it is just the right thing to do. And I'm glad to say that tonight we have with us, Georgia Lee, who actually is our policy engagement officer, who's written all these policies. Amanda Kendall, head of Crawley Homes, I'm sure you all know. And Robin, I'm sorry, I've forgotten your surname. Sorry? Kamali, that's right, yeah. Or one of our senior surveyors?
Plan maintenance manager.
Plan maintenance manager, close. So with that, I mean, assuming that everyone's read the policies, we're open to any questions.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I had a read through the policies, and I just have 3 questions, which I think you guys might have been given the heads up on, but I'll go through them anyway. So the first thing is looking at the compensation policy. I was just wondering if we've done any benchmarking against other councils. Oh, I'll let you answer that first. Actually, that'll probably be best.
Yeah, one question at a time. So we are starting our benchmarking journey. Historically, we haven't done a lot of benchmarking, and that was just to do with the kind of systems thinking approach, etc. But we are doing it. However, we don't actually have access to a lot of other councils' policies on benchmarking, but we do have some information and insights. So, for example, some of what we've based our policy on relates to some of the judgments that we've had from the Housing Ombudsman. So, for example, we had a recent judgment where the Housing Ombudsman awarded £50 compensation to the resident for failure with stage 1 complaint handling. So you'll get a feel that actually that's in line with what we're kind of proposing. We've also had the Housing Ombudsman award compensation of £350 where we didn't get defect handling right, so handling of defects in a new build. We also see judgments from other landlords because Housing Ombudsman judgments are public. We see what's coming through in those, but actually we've also had some insight from Medway Council as well. So one of our contractors is Mears. They've introduced us to Medway Council, who have just gone through a regulatory inspection, and interestingly, we had some insight even today into their compensation policy, and they give £25 for very basic, low-key, low-impact service failures, and they give that automatically where they uphold it or partly uphold, but there would be a scale upwards, so it would be £25 for something very basic and low impact. So I think from those kind of insights, what we're proposing has a good feel, and I think would sit really well with the Housing Ombudsman.
Fair enough, that makes sense, and yeah, look forward to seeing if the benchmarking kind of journey brings up anything. But yeah, like you said, it sounds like rule in line. The other thing I was wondering was about the CCTV policy, and specifically I was wondering about covert CCTV because when I read through it, I couldn't see anything about it. But I was just thinking if this was going to be our kind of go-to CCTV policy for the public. I think the public would probably, because I know we have a process, so I know it's not an oversight in that way, but I just think it might be good if there was like a signpost towards our covert policy or some kind of indication that we have one.
Yeah, so for Crawley Homes, we would only really be using our CCTV for ASB, protection of our property, that kind of thing. We would be doing our surveillance overtly. Anything covert would come under RIPA, and that is covered by our corporate policy. But point taken, if there's not already a signpost in the policy, we could certainly add that.
Fab, thanks. And then the final thing was just I had a read through of the equality impact assessments, and there were just a few bits that didn't kind of read right to me. So, for example, the compensation policy, it says it has a negative impact on people who have low socioeconomic status. And it says the remedy for that is to encourage them to get kind of specialist low-cost insurance. But I wasn't quite sure why it would impact them poorly, because if it's a compensation policy, to my mind, that shouldn't really be impacted by the having insurance or not having insurance. And then there were equality impact assessments in some of the other bits, like the stock policy, where the assessment said it had a negative impact on people based on their age, and it specifically was talking about elderly people. But then all of the examples it gave were things about age-induced disabilities, but then for people with disabilities, it said they didn't have a negative impact, so that didn't ring true to me when I was reading it. So I was wondering if there was any underlying logic to those bits.
Yeah, Georgia and I have talked about this, and I'm going to just hand over to Georgia.
Right. Hi. So with regard to the compensation policy, really the issue about a potential impact on socio-economic groups was that there is a clarification in the compensation policy that didn't exist previously, which is about relying on where there are circumstances where Crawley Homes has met all of its responsibilities, if there's damage to a property, that we would expect people to use their home contents insurance for damage to property and personal possessions. It's just really the impact assessment is just flagging up, but sort of it's an extension issue really, is that people from poor socio-economic groups may not have access to a suitable insurance policy, and if we're following the new policy and that's a position that we would go to, that might disproportionately affect people. So really just wanted to flag up in the quality impact assessment that the mitigation for that is that Crawley Council partners with an insurance scheme that's designed specifically for tenants and people on low incomes, which has more it has less hefty excess requirements. In fact, it has no excess requirement at all unless there's accidental damage. It covers an array of factors. It has variable means of paying. And so really it was just to sort of highlight that if people are sort of robustly following the policy and they start to enforce is the wrong word, but if we start to look towards other remedies, that there are potentially people within our communities who don't have access to that remedy as it stands.
That makes sense. Thanks.
And apologies for the stock condition survey, and Robin, you may want to come in here with that for the qualities impact for assessment for that. I am just double checking actually. Let me pull it up in front of me, so I don't have it in front of me. I don't know, Robin, if there's anything that you want to add on that. I know we certainly talk about potential negative impact from enforcing access requirements and so on in terms of communication of information. And as regards age, so we have said that there may be a potential impact on those due to their age. Yeah, I take your point, and it's positioned neutrally for others. So I believe that stems from I'm not entirely sure, actually, which should need to go back to the impact assessment and clarify whether that's intended. I don't know, Robin, if there's a comment that you can make on that.
I think what we'll do, we'll come back to you on that point. Is that all right? Thank you.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, yeah, reading it's not a problem with the policy itself per se. It's more, just kind of want to make sure that the quality impact assessment isn't something that's being done kind of after with less thought put in. But yeah, like I've said, the policy itself seems fine and doesn't seem like it would, be an issue in that regard. So thanks.
Three very long reports that are really interesting. I think if I do one by one, I think the compensation report was quite interesting because you don't want it to be too onerous. You want to kind of encourage a kind of compensation culture, and that's why I quite like. It's quite low level, isn't it? It's kind of, I presume, nipping it in the bud as well, and also I quite like the idea of the non-monetary thing as well. So I think the policy statement 4.3 kind of summed it up. Like, you know, you've got to be fair proportionate, but you got to do it when it's necessary. But you know, I know how much surveyors particularly have to go through in terms of their normal visits. So for them to have the complaints procedure going up and escalating, you really want to avoid that, I assume. So no, I'll commend you generally on that. On the stock survey, this is probably stupid, for the policy group in areas, homes where repairs are underreported, I assume you must have some data to see where repairs are underreported.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. We obviously maintain records on our. We obviously maintain records on our own system, ActiveH, but we also use data from both MERS and Waits in terms of repairs, volume of repairs, etc. Now, you could argue that some of the homes where we see the highest number of repairs could be the homes that we do stock condition surveys first, but actually you could also argue that the homes that we don't know anything about, i.e. the ones where we're not visiting, actually pose a bigger risk, the ones that we don't know anything about. So, you know, we have taken quite a mixed approach this year for our first year of stock condition surveys, because we're already doing them. We obviously just want a policy to kind of follow that, particularly in terms of what we want to do to kind of enforce access if we don't have access, what tenants can expect when we come. You know, we have made progress already. We're not actually picking up a lot in terms of kind of major works, etc. But yeah, definitely sometimes those properties that we don't hear anything from are the ones that we may potentially be more concerned about.
Supplementary on the stock condition survey, is that done by a separate team to the surveyors, or is it?
I'm going to let Robin talk about this.
So in planned maintenance, we have 3 new posts for stock condition surveyor roles. So they're not the surveyors from the responsive repairs team, but they'll also be responsible for managing the works that come out of the stock condition survey. So it's a one-stop place for our residents, and they understand the work that's going on. The new surveyors, permanent members of staff, are starting on the 20th of this month, and currently we're using agency staff until the 20th.
That's really good to hear, because it's a big job, isn't it? And it's going to get bigger as well. And so, just a couple more points very quickly, Chair. Going back to the first compensation, you said it's partly through legislation, but it's really also through all the different surveys we've done through tenant satisfaction surveys, etc.
Actually, the Housing Ombudsman expects us to have a compensation policy. They're very clear on that. We've obviously been using our own judgment call, but every time we get a request from the Housing Ombudsman for evidence, if a tenant escalates a case to them, they will ask for our compensation policy and various other policies that might support what we're doing. So, you know, this will be welcomed by the Housing Ombudsman.
And finally, can I just talk about CCTV? Obviously, Georgia will know that it's a particular block in me and Councillor Russell's ward. Absolutely. Which there are bits of antisocial behaviour, and they do see the CCTV as a kind of, not a panacea, but as a helping hand on that. And obviously, I thought the CCTV policy was really detailed and lots of things going on there. But it probably shouldn't have to talk about criteria, but it'd be interesting to know at what stage do we think CCTV is appropriate. And obviously, we were talking about fly tipping, etc. earlier. There's also a request for CCTV for for fly tipping on communal bins in Crawley Homes areas, and so
3.32 assist with antisocial behaviour.
Yeah. So it'd be quite interesting. The policy is good and mentions it, but at what point do we kick it in and get involved in CCTV? Because obviously it's expensive, I accept that. And obviously, I presume some of the tenants and leaseholders will have to bore some of the costs. So it's quite interesting. At what stage do we come to that?
So the scheme that you're talking about is the only scheme where we've really retrofitted CCTV. Obviously, the scheme I think you're talking about is the only scheme where we have retrofitted CCTV. We have got it in other schemes, but it's been there as kind of new build. We do have mobile cameras as well, and we will work with Georgina Bouette's team as well on CCTV requirements, but we haven't actually installed it in any other scheme. There's not really been a need for it. Yes, we have maybe one-off ASB issues, or maybe if there's part of an ASB case, we'll put a mobile camera up, but not for kind of static CCTV. But, you know, we will keep an open mind to it. Obviously, the policy is there for a reason. Obviously, we would need to have the budget as well. We don't have a specific budget for CCTV, but if there were a need for it, we could build it into a future year programme. But we don't specifically have any other blocks currently where we'd be looking at it for.
One last point, Chair. I think the tenants in Crawley might be a bit surprised to know that they need landlord approval to put doorbell cameras in. So that was one thing which came out to me, hit me in the face straight away.
Yeah, I can answer upon that. We the policy follows good practice and the Information Commissioner's guidance, and I think one of the big grey areas for us is with the explosion of personal systems, and particularly Ring doorbells and the accessibility of them was one of the reasons commanding the need for that to be included in quite an enhanced way in the policy. We have accompanying the policy, we will have information leaflets for residents, which we will be distributing, which explains the kind of key position about the Ring doorbells and so on. It's twofold. It's one, so that people understand entirely what their responsibilities are for the data that they're collecting on those systems, but also because of the potential damage to the fabric and structure of the building and fire protection. So there are pieces of equipment out there that are minimally invasive on that front, and so what we will be doing is when people ask for permission, we'll go through that sort of set framework around the reasons for the doorbell, whether it's necessary, whether there's other remedies and the things stipulated in the policy, but also whether there are sort of better approaches. And one of those approaches might be that if somebody has a Ring doorbell, that they select a particular type. Yes, there is a plan for sort of information out to residents. Certainly our TLAP, our tenant leaseholders panel, was surprised and slightly horrified, but I think when the context comes into play about the level of responsibility that people have for what they capture, I think they're sort of grateful for the guidance.
I'll be brief, Chair, I promise. I just want to say that all these policies have been discussed and endorsed by the Tenants and Leaseholders Action Panel, which demonstrates the usefulness of having such a panel. It does give the tenants a voice. And also, when it comes to the Housing Ombudsman, many organisations regard their Ombudsman as something to be feared. We don't. We regard the Housing Ombudsman as a critical friend. Thank you.
Thank you. My question is about the repairs. Do the contractors get any timeline when they start the work? Because I'm personally aware of one case where the contractor just disappeared and the work was not completed. Now it's been over 3 months. So what sort of options these sort of cases they have? Thank you.
Can I ask, is that specifically in relation to any of the policies that we're discussing?
Yeah, it's just about the repair work and the compensation, you know, that, I mean, normally if something like this happens, do they have any other option like the compensation, or how we address these sort of issues?
Absolutely. So if we do uphold or partly uphold a complaint and it's because the contractor has got something wrong, we will encourage the contractor to offer compensation. And normally, if it's a complaint completely about the contractor handling or their operatives, then actually we will ask the contractor to draft it at stage 1 and come up with a solution. And we will have oversight and sign off of that complaint before it goes out. However, sometimes they do come up to stage 2, and certainly when I look at them at stage 2, if I offer compensation, I'll be talking to the contractor about that, and we will if I come to the conclusion that compensation should be awarded, then we will recharge that to the contractor through their monthly valuation, so the contractor would get a penalty for it.
All the committee members have had the opportunity to speak. I'd like to thank the officers for their interesting report. I move that the Commission notes the report and requests that views expressed during the debate are fed back to Cabinet through the Commission's comment sheet. Do I have a seconder? Right, Nick. Just need the one. We'll move on to, thank you everyone. We will move on to update on the Town Centre report with Councillor Nawaz, Cabinet Member for Planning and Economic Development, and Clem Smith, Head of Economic Planning. This is an update report for the OSC only, and will not be going to Cabinet. Councillor Nawaz, if you can introduce your report, thank you. I'd just like to remind the Commission this is a Part A report and there should be no discussion on commercial, sensitive and specific financial information. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. I will be brief. I'm accompanied here with the Head of Service, Clem Smith, with myself. So I'm very pleased to introduce this update report on Crawley Town Centre to this Commission, which highlights some really positive news about the performance of Crawley's economy in recent times. The Council is also poised in the course of this year to lead delivery of the exciting next phase of Crawley Town Centre regeneration programme. Clem Smith will provide further details in a moment. Crawley Town Centre remains a successful sub-regional destination for retail and leisure, with strong footfall figures holding up extremely well, including in comparison with neighbouring towns in the sub-region. Section 4.2 of the report highlights that in November last year, there were over 1.25 million visitors to the town centre that month, which is notable upward trend compared to the same time in the previous year. This builds on over 15 million visitors in 2023. The report also emphasizes the resilience and success in Crawley Town Centre in attracting alternative retail investment. The latest retail unit vacancy rate shows that 8.6% of retail units were vacant, the lowest level since spring 2019, which is pre-COVID, and well below the national average of 14%, which shows how resilient Crawley Town Centre and also retail sector is in Crawley. The town centre has in particular in recent times benefited from a number of new niche and retail and cafe businesses. There are some notable chains which are quite popular in niche area, some names including Chaiwala, Escoy's Organic Cafe, London Oriental Supermarket, Jim Group Crawley, Moba Bubble Tea, Barak Groceries and Elegant Boutique, which shows some of the businesses which are smaller businesses, but they're willing to invest in Crawley with the core potential in Crawley market and population. Overall, Crawley's economy is bouncing back well from the huge crisis it faced at the time of COVID pandemic, as shown in Appendix A. The value of Crawley's economy has recovered to its pre-COVID value of over 6 billion. And one of the stats which I always like and which is in the part of Appendix B is Crawley's economy contributing towards West Sussex economy as 25%, with only 2% of land mass, which is quite pride. We in Crawley take pride in Crawley, like we're contributing quite well towards the West Sussex economy. Employment rate is now notably higher than both the South East regional average and the national average. Over 10,000 more Crawley residents found jobs last year compared to the previous year. Crawley also has the highest net increase in business in West Sussex in 3 out of the last 4 quarters. These are really positive economic indicators, clear evidence of some significant resilience in the local economy, and a positive upwards trajectory for economic growth in Crawley. I will now pass on to Clem to give you a little bit more further detail on project-wise and where we are with those things. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Firstly, I'll start with the closure of Marks and Spencer's in the town centre. Through dialogue with Marks and Spencer's, they made it quite clear that the reason why the store closed was because their business model nationally is being adjusted to larger, more sub-regional stores. So the town centre store basically didn't fit this model. And having been there for 56 years, the building was in need of significant investment to meet modern standards. So M&S have also said that they don't rule out finding a new location in Crawley on the basis that if they were to secure a suitable site which is consistent with their new business model, and we are in active conversations with them about potential options. The encouraging news is that the prospects for a relatively quick sale and new investment in their former store site are quite good. We are aware that there are active opportunities being explored by the private sector to unlock new residential-led investment for the site. I think we need to be clear in the context of planning policy that the council would expect modern commercial or retail accommodation on the ground floor. To carry on the encouraging theme, there is an increasing volume of town centre residential accommodation with over 1,100 homes now built within the town centre. This means the town centre is well on its way to meeting the aspiration in Crawley's new local plan of a vibrant new town centre neighbourhood of 3,000 homes. Despite the challenges posed by water neutrality, there are a number of new residential schemes which are moving positively towards development. These include Longley House, Telford Place, and the former Mocker site on Station Way. The town centre also remains a vibrant business hub with 450 businesses in the town centre, employing over 13,500 people. As well as retail, there is a significant cluster of specialist professional business services, for example, legal, financial, recruitment, marketing, property services, and many others. The presence of this business base continues to play a key role in driving the town centre economy. The council remains committed to progressing the next phases of the town centre regeneration programme in conjunction with the Crawley's economic recovery plan. Crawley Borough Council, working with West Sussex County Council and stakeholders, have been very successful in unlocking over £120 million of funding since 2017, mainly for the Crawley Growth Programme, Crawley Towns Fund Programme, alongside other regeneration schemes, and these are listed in Appendix A in your report. Roughly half of these funds have already been spent, with schemes worth over £61 million being implemented now and over the coming years, the years to come. Looking ahead into 2025, the council will be spearheading the next phase of the Town Centre Regeneration Programme with 2 major initiatives, again working closely with colleagues at West Sussex County Council and also key stakeholders like Metrobus. Subject to planning permission, the £7.4 million Station Gateway scheme will bring much needed physical improvements to the operation of Crawley Bus Station, alongside the regeneration of the public spaces in the Martlets, Hazlitt Avenue West, Ferrari Way, and a new larger pedestrian crossing across Station Way to improve connectivity to the railway station. The second initiative would involve the development of a new regeneration plan showcasing a number of sites to help attract investment to the east of the town centre. Thanks to finances from the Crawley Towns Fund, consultants will be able to be commissioned to work with landowners to progress these plans on sites which include the former Town Hall building, County Building site owned by West Sussex County, the Queensway block, including the old M&S store, and the northern parcel of land on the Crawley College site. Speaking of the college, last year Chichester College Group secured planning permission for a £14.5 million Institute of Technology training facility for the college, and the council has played a key role in securing £4.5 million of government finances from the Crawley Towns Fund, which will help establish a green construction skills hub at the college in the heart of the town centre, bringing new training and qualifications to benefit local people. The overall mission for these major funding programmes is to secure a sustainable and successful economic future for the town centre, despite the major challenges we face. We very much hope that these schemes will add to the very positive recovery momentum of Crawley's economy, as illustrated by the economic data presented in summary to you by Councillor Nawaz and also in your Appendix A of your report. Thank you very much and happy to take any questions.
This is very good news, and it's very good news for Crawley, and it would be very nice if Crawley residents know this good news, so that it can encourage people to come into the town centre and use the town centre like we'd like them to do. Thank you. Right, anyone got any questions? Councillor Lanza.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for that report. You've both used the term neighbourhood several times in the report and in speaking, and you've spoken about the volume of housing. And this has been quite a long-term aspiration, in fact, and dating back to the 90s, I would say, in local planning terms, to increase the number of residents in the town centre, and that's coming to fruition. But when you're using that term, do you see any possibility for the town centre to become a neighbourhood literally in the classical sense of Crawley neighbourhoods, if it were to grow to, say, 3,000 dwellings? Is that something that you've ever thought about?
I think getting to 3,000 homes, we could anticipate the characteristics of a neighbourhood within Crawley New Town, as well as therefore taking on more of a dual role, both as a neighbourhood but also as remaining a vibrant sub-regional retail destination and a hub for business activity.
I think it's an interesting point. I mean, when I say classical neighbourhood, of course, each of our neighbourhoods has its own colours as depicted on the logo, whereas I think I'm right in saying the town centre is, isn't it, black on white, isn't it, for the signage? I mean, that was the original. So it already has that characteristic. But, of course, in reality today, of course, it includes parts of Southgate, West Green, Northgate, etc. But your comments are interesting, and I think it's just something worth bearing in mind if we were to get to something like the 3,000 level. Thank you.
Thank you. It's just an observation and a question. I was very interested to see the growth of the independent retailers, and visiting other town centres, it does appear that actually if you're going to keep them vibrant, that's a way ahead. That the business model that you've said about Marks and Spencer's, but many other businesses, doesn't seem to work with town centres anymore. And having had the opportunity to visit Winchester town centre, it was really interesting to see the dynamics of that. There were some small chain retailer units, but lots and lots of the independent retailers, which was very interesting. And coupled to that, there was a cultural zone at Winchester, which I thought was quite interesting, which is something we're talking about possibly. So that was one observation. Just a quick question on the town centre vacancy rates. And it's good to see that they've dropped on the percentage. But my question is the percentage related to units, or is it related to volume of available retail space?
It's a percentage of the units, the retail units themselves, numerically, yeah.
Obviously, the difference between Winchester and Crawley is that Crawley was built in 1946, Crawley New Town. I think Winchester's probably 846.
Yes, 9th century.
47, sorry. New Town. I was about a New Town's Act, Bob. I'm quite excited about the station gateway, actually. I think I've become a bit of a public transport nerd because I spend so much time on trains, and I've been into a couple of big northern towns recently, Barnsley and Hull, and you know, their bus stations are quite things of beauty, and I presume they add to the town centre, because you know, it's not particularly pleasant late at night by the bus station, etc., and I think you could do quite a lot with it. So I'm really quite excited about that. And I think in terms of your comments, Chair, about the good news story, I mean, 1.2 million visitors, it's huge. I don't know what it's like compared to other towns, but do we care? You know, it just shows how much is coming in. I think the independent sector as well. Obviously, there's only two things I would say. It's interesting, you've been in discussion with M&S. It's a shame, and it's not really a criticism, but has there any been discussion about what's happened about, should I say, the Morrison site? You know, and the only other thing in terms of the town centre is, I know it's difficult because of logistics and stuff and power cables, but when that central bit of the high street comes alive, when we've had Crawley Live events and stuff, it's really good. And I just think if you could ever do something there on a regular basis, I think it would be really good. It's such a lovely bit of space, and I just think it's just been underutilised. Because it's, you know, I don't know if the cultural quarter will help in that in some respects. You know, the bit by the high street, Clem? The central bit in the middle high street. So I think there's lots to look forward to.
I think Clem will come back to in more detail, but I think you raised some really good points. I think if I go back to the station gateway scheme, I think it clearly says phase 1. And given that if you're able to secure more money in the future, the phase 2, we might see something a little bit improving on the top of what we're doing in phase 1. And I understand High Street. I think we're working with Town Centre a bit quite closely on different events organised in High Street side of things, and it's improving. I think the last one was quite good. The last event I think was something to do with Gatwick, wasn't it? I think I can't remember top of my head, but it was really busy. I think I met you on that event as well. So that was quite well attended. But given that how other initiatives been going on within Town Centre regeneration side and market moving into the Queen's Way, I think that's going to improve the overall the look and how it attracts more new retail customers into the town. As far as Morrison's, I think Clem probably can say more about it, but I think because it's a private property and Morrison is locked in with a long lease, I don't think so landlords will be, you know, interested, but I'll let Clem to explain that a little bit more on that.
I mean, in essence, it's a very challenging scenario with the ex-Morrison's site. Well, firstly, the freeholder is an offshore business, and secondly, there is a long lease still on the site. My understanding is that Morrison's still have a lease on that site that they are unable to exit for several more years, and what that does, it makes it very difficult for alternative uses for the site to be able to be brought forward. So it's the characteristics of that arrangement which are the principal stumbling block to finding an alternative use for that particular site at this moment in time. In regards to your question about the High Street, we do have some consultants working at the moment on an analysis as the most appropriate locations for future cultural infrastructure within the town centre, the so-called Cultural Quarter project, and quite clearly the High Street is one of the key locations for consideration as part of that particular report. And in the coming months, that report with recommendations and proposals will be coming back through to Cabinet, and no doubt an opportunity for this Commission to look at that in the coming months.
I wanted to add on to what Councillor Lanza said about the town centre becoming a neighbourhood. Does that mean that, because I know that some of the town centre is Northgate, some of it's West Green, and some of it might even be Three Bridges. So does that mean that those parts will become a neighbourhood and they'll have its own name and maybe a school and other things that our neighbourhoods have? Or is it just going to be known as the town centre?
My guess, because I mean, obviously the local plan projects 3,000 homes up to 2040. So we're talking of a up to 15-year period for that to materialise. But I guess going forward, the location and the concentration of the residential homes within the town centre would make that new neighbourhood synonymous with the characteristics of the town centre, and therefore I would say it's more likely to be quite clearly a town centre neighbourhood, with distinct from the other neighbourhoods.
So those three
next
areas, the little bit that's in West Green, the little bit that's in North Bed, the little bit that's in Three Bridges, will become one neighbourhood, and those are not.
I think it would be for discussion at the time as to what the boundaries of the neighbourhood would be. A lot depends on how the new housing sites come forward,
Right.
and how they're configured. At the moment, we've got a projection as to what they would look like within the plan, but that may not necessarily happen. There may be particular sites that don't come forward, maybe other sites which emerge in the coming years, which give it a different type of configuration. I think it remains to be seen what the most appropriate relationship will be between the town centre neighbourhood and the one neighbourhoods in the immediate vicinity of the town centre.
Thank you. Councillor Ramsey.
Thank you, Chair.
Oh, it was you.
Oh, sorry, did I say your name wrong?
Yeah, you said my name. Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, sorry.
Don't worry, it's easy to get us mixed up.
Yeah, it's it happens all the time.
Yeah.
I thought I said Ramsey.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. So yeah, there's obviously lots of really, really good news in here, and I was thinking it would probably, I don't know what the experience of other councillors is, but certainly when I speak to residents, this is not the impression I get from residents. So it seems like we're doing much better as a town with our town centre than residents probably think. And I was just wondering, in relation to 4.10 specifically, it says that the town centre bid has been particularly successful in improving the sense of community safety and security. And I was just wondering how that's been measured. Have we done surveys, or is there some kind of objective measure as to why we've said that in this report? Or yeah, that's mainly what I was wondering.
Thank you. I think there are different reports on town centre bid produce, and they do give us that information, which through different surveys, and one of the biggest initiative, I think, the sense of community and safety side of things, they're ambassadors, which are very prominent and very known to the community and work very closely with the police as well, with the Crawley Safer Partnership earlier we heard. So I think those kind of figures and all the stats does come from Crawley Town Centre bid with a pack from that. I'm also, as an advisor, sit on the board and see those numbers. Well, I'm sure Clem can detail a little bit more on it.
Not a lot to add, just to say that the ambassadors are recognised, I think, quite widely within the business community and retail community in the town centre as one of the more successful initiatives that the town centre bid has established. And in terms, one of the ways in which that's being measured is the impact that the ambassadors are having in retrieving stolen goods and getting those back. And I can't give you a precise figure, but the figures are in the hundreds of thousands of pounds of stolen goods that have been helped to be retrieved off the back of the good work that the ambassadors are doing, obviously working with the police and the Safer Communities team and the council and others. And yeah, it's seen as one of the most key successes of the bid in its first term.
I mean, it's great work on the recovering stolen goods, and yeah, thanks.
All committee members have the opportunity to speak, so I'd like to thank the officers for an interesting report. I move that the Commission has considered the report and requests that the comments expressed are acknowledged and documented by the officers. Please can I have a seconder? Councillor Barrett. Thank you. Is that agreed? Right. Item 9 is HASC. The last meeting of the HASC took place on the 27th of November and the 8th of January. Councillor Khan, can you please update the Commission?
Yes,
Thank
this
you.
might be a longer report. Yeah. This might be a longer report than usual because I do have 2 meetings to update you guys about. So, so the first meeting which I have to update you guys about is the 27th of November meeting. So the important items to discuss about that. So the first one for this meeting, which I want to cover, is the Sussex Winter Plan from 2024 to 2025. So this winter plan is obviously focusing on supporting the population to stay well and maintain patient safety, and experience the assumption that there will be no, and they are currently operating with the assumption that there will be no extra winter funding, and thus all the decisions have been taken through quality safety. The operation model used in previous years has been expanded to facilitate the winter planning this year, and the winter plan has been active since the 1st of November. So that is currently going. The next item was the performance and resources report from quarter 2 from 2024 to 2025. So in receiving this report, it was noted that of the 7 performance measures, 14% of the measures were reporting as green, and 43% was reporting as amber, and 43% as well was reporting as red. So that's the current figures on that. And then I also want to talk about the update on council plan, medium term and financial strategy. So so there was concerns that were raised about the increase in national insurance contributions and the impact this would occur on the health and social care budget, particularly for providers and in the council more generally. So this is something that the council is currently looking at. The committee has also noted that the department and cabinet member have been providing them with information which is on this and keeping them updated, which has been good. So on this item, they felt that the budget process is open and transparent with members, and they are currently waiting on progress on that. So that's all the important stuff which I felt was important to mention from the 27th of November meeting. And then we switch over to the 8th of January meeting, the one that just recently happened. So this one is a bit more fresh in my mind. So the first item which I want to talk about for this one is the work programme planning and possible future items for this. So I'm just going to read my notes for that. So so the committee was asked to accept a report from the end of September for quarter 2 and the performance and resource reports. And I also want to mention another item, which is improving access to general practice in West Sussex. So the Health and Social Care Committee identified scrutiny of access to NHS primary care as a priority, and following scrutiny of the NHS post-COVID recovery plan, which was started in September 2021. So that is so they are currently working through this plan, and and identifying further scrutiny for this matter. So thank you very much. If there's any questions, I will answer them. Thanks.
Does anyone have any questions for Councillor Khan? No? Thank you. The forthcoming discussion list. The forthcoming discussion list is featured on your agenda and also on the council's website. I would ask Heather I would ask Heather to now list those that have been referred.
Lovely, thank you, Chair. There are 7 reports heading to Cabinet on the 5th of February, so that will be OSC on the 3rd. As the Commissioner is aware, this will be the budget meeting and is usually quite a heavy agenda. So I will list the reports that have been referred first and which will be coming to OSC on the 3rd. And there's currently 4 of these. So we've got the budget monitoring quarter 3. We've obviously got the budget and council tax report. We've got capital strategy 25-26 and treasury management strategy. So those are the 4. And then the other reports that are due to cabinet are we've got another housing policy set of reports. So these are the housing compliance policies, and these will include gas safety, electrical safety, fire safety for enclosed blocks, low rise, building safety and fire safety, high rise blocks, housing revenue account property portfolio rents for 25-26, and disposal of freehold for ongoing use of affordable housing. Any of those you'd like to refer? Councillor Lanza.
Thank you, Chair. It was just a comment really on the table. I think the heading PDF should read PFD, standing for Policy Framework Document, rather than an Adobe file.
Rather than Adobe, yes, it should.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes, I've got my fingers
that's
slightly
fine.
wrong
No,
way.
it's because the context is quite important. Because I think we're obliged, as per the table, to consider PFDs.
We are indeed. Yes,
which
it
is
should
why
be.
we've got 4 items 2 to 5 are automatic for us to scrutinise because
Yes.
they're PFDs.
Yeah, apologies.
It
It should be a PFD rather than a
No, that's okay.
Adobe. Yes, it should.
We have got plenty, but I presume we can't defer any of those in number 6 to later on. They'll be going as well.
No, because they'll be going to Cabinet on the Wednesday.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah, okay. It should say low rise instead of low risk. Is that right?
No, it does say low risk.
Right. You said low rise.
It is low risk.
Oh, it's low risk.
It's
okay.
it's low risk and high risk.
That's fine. Okay.
So can you just confirm? Do you want either of those additional 3? Because you've just had housing policy reports tonight. No? No? So you just want the usual 4 finance ones?
You don't want the policies?
Which one?
The next lot of policies that are coming from housing, like we've had tonight.
Would we give them due consideration?
I think we'll be stretching ourselves too thin, to be honest. I think we're better off sticking with what's there. We've got the cabinet look at them. My feeling is, and I hear muttering some other people here, if you take too much, you spread yourself too thin. I think we've got plenty on the agenda.
That's fine. So to confirm, the only report currently, unless anything else comes through, you will just have for February Quarter 3, budget and council tax, capital strategy, treasury management strategy. Those 4. What I will say is, obviously, if any other decisions or forthcoming decision emails come through and you want to refer, then email Democratic Services and they can be referred.